And we're back for another exciting episode of
Horror Guys. Yay!
Horror Weekly.
Horror Weekly?
You know, last week in the podcast, I explained our changes with HorrorMonthly.com and HorrorGuys.com and that other site that I said wrong 3 times in a row.
Uh-huh.
It's not weeklyhorror.com.
It's Horror Weekly. The horror comes first.
Horror always comes first.
That's right. So Horror Weekly and Horror Daily.
Yes. Don't say that.
What?
There's no Horror Daily.
Well, there should be. Okay. Disregard that. Horror Monthly.
There would be a Horror Daily, but somebody got that name before me.
Okay. Horror Monthly, Horror Weekly. I got carried away.
There you go. Okay. Yes.
All right.
All right. And since we're talking about those things anyway, Horror Monthly. The new August issue is out there now, and it is in fact called Horror Monthly. It is issue 35 of our monthly print magazine. Yes, you can get our reviews in paper, published every month. Go over to horrormonthly.com. It's right there on the homepage, actually, the new issue. This red bloody mummy looking thing. And it's got a link there to buy it on Amazon or Lulu or direct from us or wherever you like to buy your stuff.
Wherever fine books are sold.
It is available at other places as well. We didn't put all those links in there because it's confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you buy your books from Apple or Barnes & Noble or Kobo or a couple of those foreign places, Tolino and some stuff like that, it's available just about anywhere you buy ebooks.
Nice.
But if you want paperbacks, we've got Amazon, we've got Lulu.
Mm-hmm. So, we saw movies.
We did.
We saw a lot of movies.
We
And a lot of
saw
shorts.
a lot of movies and a lot of shorts.
Uh-huh.
What do we got?
We got new stuff. A lot of new stuff this week.
New stuff is good.
Yeah.
You notice we're getting closer and closer to October. There's more and more new stuff.
Uh-huh. It's funny how that works with horror.
Yeah.
They tend to do that. Yeah. Well, we got A Quiet Place Day 1, where it all began.
A prequel.
A prequel to the previous 2 movies. And In a Violent Nature, which was another new one this year.
Jason Cam.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And a indie film, Ganymede, that was also this year. And then we got,
Last week, actually.
oh yeah, very new. Yeah. And then we got a couple of, I'm not going to say oldies, 1408 from 2007 and Eden Lake from 2008.
You know, I had not seen Eden Lake, and people always talk about how horrible and nasty that is, and I'd never seen it.
I had seen it before. This was my second viewing. I
It
thought it was
good.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was pretty good. Yeah, it's violent and
Yeah.
hard to watch. There's
I think the realism of it is what tips most people over.
The
There's a lot
gore
of
and-
much more violent movies out there, but
the
this one
gore
is
and violence
realistic.
is very realistic. Yeah, it's one of those where it makes it a little more horrifying too because there's no monsters or magic or supernatural. It's just people doing
yeah.
bad things. Yeah,
But we'll get to that. First of all, we want to get to another very realistic, very possible movie, A Quiet Place, Day 1.
Day 1, totally realistic.
Directed by Markle Sanoski, written by him and John Krasinski and Brian Woods. Stars Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, and Alex Wolff. You know, the little kid from Hereditary.
It was?
The guy with the big beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gotten older.
Oh, okay. I didn't recognize him. Okay.
Hour and 39 minutes. Trailer in the show notes.
I really liked the 2 main characters in this. I thought they had really good chemistry, and
Yeah.
Joseph Quinn and
I think it's gotten a lot of criticism because you know how it's all going to end for these people.
Yeah,
But it's a prequel. That's the way these things work.
But you get to see how the apocalypse started.
Also,
at least in one city.
Also, most of these movies are about people who are trying to survive any way they can. Mm-hmm. That's not what the goals are here.
Yeah, not exactly.
They got some very unusual goals. Well, one of them's got very unusual goals.
Yeah.
Spoiler free. This was interesting to see how things started out with the whole alien apocalypse thing. And it was entertaining, we thought. This is the 3rd or the 4th one?
This is the 3rd movie.
You had Day 1.
Yeah, uh-huh.
A Quiet Place. What was the second one? A Quiet Place?
Part 2.
That's all it was, just part 2? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
And we have watched these other 2, or however many there were. Just check horrorguys.com. You can do the search. But we've seen them all now. We're caught up.
Well, and it seems like they could even do more prequels and
Sure,
spin-offs and stuff, too.
Day 1 of other
this
places.
This was in the city, in Manhattan Island. But, the military's got to deal with this stuff, and other cities and cities around the world were getting hit at the same time.
Uh-huh.
There's all kinds of things they could do.
As the budget gets bigger.
And maybe, yeah.
Well, anyway, being a prequel, we know how things are going to go overall, but there was enough tension and uncertainty here to keep us involved. It's another one of those end of the world in the big city movies.
And if you're not familiar with the premise, if you haven't seen the other movies, the aliens are very sensitive to sound.
They're blind, but they are super sensitive to sound.
And very deadly. Yeah, if you make noise, they will hone in on you and get you.
Not to be confused with Bird Box, which was kind of just the opposite.
So it takes them a while. It takes people a while to figure that out.
Not very long.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, but it's a problem.
Yeah. Well, the budget here was big, and the effects are good. It's got a very high body count. Everyone.
Yeah.
And lots of carnage.
Uh-huh.
We did like it.
Yeah, I liked it.
All right. Well, it's newish. Most people haven't seen it yet, so don't spoil it to death. But what happens?
Well, we open on New York City, and we're told that it gives off the same amount of noise as a typical scream. What was it, like 90 decibels on average?
I think that's what they said, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Samira, our main character, she has a bad attitude in her cancer support group at the hospice center. The group is going to a show in the city, and they invite her along. Well, as the bus crosses the bridge into town, Manhattan, several jet fighters fly over in a hurry.
Not necessarily a red flag, but that's not a common thing.
I thought that was really skillfully done, how they just gradually around the edges of these people.
Stuff is happening.
They're going around their lives.
You don't need to know just yet. Stuff's happening.
Things are happening, yeah. Well, the show turns out to be an old guy doing marionettes. But it gets a little intense for Samira. So she steps outside and sees police cars going down the road.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Yeah. Well, the guy who runs the group gets a call that he needs to bring everyone home. Something's happening in the city.
Someone knows more than we do.
Yeah. Well, but Sam, she's in hospice care. She's got terminal cancer. She's near the end.
Days.
She's functional, but, she wants pizza.
That's what she came to town for, was pizza.
This is
the
her
last pizza
chance,
she's ever going to have.
Last chance to have New York pizza. She doesn't want to leave, and she starts getting upset. Well, she does get on the bus as air raid sirens go off. Meteors, or what looks like meteors, are coming down all over the city. One hits very near the bus. Sam walks off and walks through the smoke and ash, and she watches silently as people are attacked and pulled away by things.
We don't see them. Of course, we know what they are, but
we
don't see them here.
Glimpses of them at first, yeah.
And credits roll.
Credits roll.
Yeah, there was a lot
start.
going on in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, Sam wakes up with Henry and a bunch of people in the crowded theater.
And Henry here is like number 3 or 4 in the credits, and I figured he was going to be a big deal. He's kind of like one scene at the end, one scene here.
Yeah.
He's nobody.
Yeah. Many of them are wounded, and they've kind of figured out now that they need to be quiet. Reuben, the nurse, is there, and he has her cat. Yeah, that's a key thing.
She brought her cat with her.
She brought her emotional support cat. And that is one patient, calm cat throughout all this. That's amazing.
How would your cat do during the alien invasion apocalypse?
Yeah.
Not this calmly.
Yeah. Well, the cat, being a cat, rings a bell. And we soon see one of the monsters indoors, and then a whole herd of them outdoors. They get a radio report that the planes are blowing up bridges to contain things and try to trap them on Manhattan Island, because the creatures can't swim. One guy freaks out and yells, "We're all going to die!" And Henry kills him to keep him quiet.
Well, proved him right.
Yeah. Well, Sam decides that she does really want that pizza, jokes with Reuben that she's going to go after some anyway. The power goes off, and an automatic generator kicks in, which is loud, and Reuben is a little bit too slow to turn it off.
All right, well, that's probably a good place to stop. It's basically Quest for Pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza of the Apocalypse.
The
last pizza
and
in humanity.
Sam ends up teaming up with the other guy, and they go off and have adventures through the city. And
Yeah. Now, the whole idea of blowing up the bridges to contain them on the island sounds like a good idea, but we know from the future movies that it didn't work.
They weren't just on the island.
Yeah, there were other places.
Yeah.
But you'd think they'd have figured that out before the end of the movie, because this takes place over a couple of days.
Yeah.
There had to have been the monsters other places.
Well, maybe they had figured it out by then, but
The boats, the ferries were still pulling people off the island.
Yeah.
They thought they were going to a safe place.
Well, there might have been some safe places or other islands that hadn't been tainted yet.
All right, well, anyway, the big suspense here is will she get her pizza or not?
Yeah.
Well, the first movie basically took place...
And will the cat survive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took place in the woods on a solitary farm. This one has clearly got a much bigger budget since they wipe out all of New York City, of all places.
Mm-hmm.
And as said before, this is one well-trained cat. Ours goes missing whenever the doorbell rings, much less hanging out peacefully through an alien invasion.
Yeah.
It's tough to make a movie where there's not going to be much dialogue, and there can't be here. After the opening credits, the conversations are few and far between. Still, most of the situations are tense enough that we really don't need explanations. It's not a silent film, but it almost could be.
Mm-hmm. There's long stretches of it where they don't speak.
Well, there wasn't much new here, I thought, but it was an entertaining way to spend 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Better than the previous movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Well, it managed to seem like nothing much new and be kind of really entertaining at the same time. I was entertained. I think I liked the first one the best. This one second. But it's close.
Okay.
Yeah. The script, pacing, and direction, I think, were all really good. I really liked the two leads together, and able to carry it off with so much stretches of time with no dialogue.
In our non-spoily introduction, we didn't even get to the second main character.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up a little later.
A little later. Yeah. He's had a rough time, but they team up. And it was interesting starting out knowing that the main character that you're rooting for is doomed either way.
Alien invasion, no alien invasion. She's going to die real soon.
She's
anyway.
got like a week.
Yeah.
I mean, she's real close. Yeah, and she's on heavy pain medication, and yeah. And the emotional support cat Frodo was impressively calm and smart. One thing I did wonder about, and actually I saw a.
You looked it up.
I looked up and saw a possible explanation for this. There's no corpses laying around. There's a massive body count. And like, where's all the bodies? Like, well, there is kind of an explanation for that.
Well, you looked it up. What's the answer?
The aliens were planting them, basically, and growing spores, mushroom kind of things that the aliens can eat.
Because we do see them eat a thing in this one, some sort of round. I thought it was an egg at first, but it's not.
Yeah, they're using the bodies for fertilizer. Ew.
Yum.
Yeah. But anyway, overall, I thought it was as good as the first movie and better than the second.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's been many years since we had a Friday the 13th film.
Mm-hmm.
And this one isn't one of those.
It's totally not Friday the 13th.
It is, though.
It totally is not.
In a Violent Nature from 2024, written and directed by Chris Nash, stars Rye Barrett, Andrea Pavlovic, and Cameron Love. Hour and 34 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, what happens?
Well, like we said, this is totally not about Jason Voorhees at Camp Crystal Lake, but imagine the Friday the 13th films made from Jason's perspective, and you've got this movie. Unfortunately, it takes a long time to stomp walk from place to place, and way too much of the movie consists of that. It is an interesting premise with some very good moments, good death scenes, but overall it's a little bit on the tedious side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of said it all. It's Friday the 13th from Jason's point of view.
Yeah.
But it's not really Jason because they don't have those rights.
Totally not. Yeah.
Colt and Aaron are near a fire tower near a cemetery, and Aaron starts talking about the White Pine Slaughter. But the others aren't interested in hearing a stupid ghost story. They do find a necklace and take it with them. It's just sort of hanging there on the side of the fire tower. We see something disturbing the ground before climbing out of one of the graves. It's a man, but we don't get much of a look at him. There's no key.
But there should be.
There should be.
Yeah.
Well, the man, who we later find out his name's Johnny, moves slowly but starts walking out through the woods. We see that there are animal traps. Many animal traps.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny hears Chuck and the ranger arguing about the animal traps, and he homes in on their arguing voices. They should have watched Silent Place.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck runs off the ranger, but Johnny goes inside the house after Chuck. And we get a flashback to Johnny's father giving him that locket that the men took earlier. It's very clear that Johnny wants that locket back. Chuck finds Johnny, and that goes very badly for him.
Yeah, it does.
Night falls. Johnny hears some campers making a bunch of noise not far away. It's Colt, Troy, Brody, Aaron, Evan, Chris, and Aurora. What? Teenagers camping?
What? With doomed on their foreheads?
Well, they sit
Yeah.
around the campfire, and Aaron finally gets to tell his story about the White Pine Slaughter, which all revolves around this kid named Johnny. Well, Johnny was hated by the locals. Okay. Who lured him out to the top of a fire tower and scared him until he fell off and broke his neck.
And they lied and said he was playing and he fell accidentally.
No charges were put against any of the locals, but a week later, everyone in that camp was torn apart and killed.
Huh.
Well, the young people go back to their cabin and were soon wishing Johnny would kill them a lot quicker. Teen drama time.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there stalking the woods around the house, and he finally runs into Aaron, who loses his head. Well, half his head.
Messy.
Johnny drags the body to the ranger station, where he picks up a mask and a weapon. It's not a hockey mask and a machete, but it may as well be.
It's a firefighter's antique breathing mask.
Yeah. We're going to stop there. You know where we're going with this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, anyway, the moral of the story is obviously, if you're in the woods, don't make unnecessary noise. It attracts the wrong kind of attention.
Uh-huh.
Well, the camera work here is interesting, with lots of long, wide-angle shots that don't move around a lot, as well as just behind the monster point of view shots. I don't know what that's called, second-person gaming or something, like Tomb Raider, where she runs just ahead of the camera.
Uh-huh.
This is like that, only it's Johnny.
Yeah.
This is about the only thing that really differentiates this movie from the 200 Friday the 13th films. Actually, if you ever wondered how those films went from the killer's perspective, this is the film for you. The killer spends a lot of time roaming around silently in the woods, and kind of borders on boring occasionally. But wandering around the woods would get that way. We don't care about any of the characters. I mean, we don't care if they all die, and there's no final girl in this one, really. It's just,
Well, there is.
Well, we don't care.
Well,
Because this time we're invested in the killer.
In the killer, because we're with him. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much story here, but we get the full stalker cam point of view. The kills are creative, especially one of them,
Uh-huh.
but that's about all it's got going for it. I thought it was just a touch boring. How about you? What'd you think?
Well, you know how race car drivers spend a lot of time not racing and astronauts spend a lot of time here on Earth? Indestructible killers spend a lot of their time not actually killing.
Huh.
Yeah. It was an interesting idea, switching up the point of view, I thought, and the killings were well done, but like you said, it was a little bit tedious.
It probably could have used maybe 2 more killings just to, liven it up a
things
little.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I was a little bit disappointed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was not bad. It could have been better.
A little bit too much tromping through the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now let's go back in time to 2007 and watch 1408.
Okay.
I avoided this for a long time because I thought it was historical. It took place during the Crusades or something. Year 1408.
Year 1408?
No, it's Hotel
No.
Room 1408.
Room 1408. Yeah.
Directed by Mikhail Hafstrom. Written by Matt Greenberg, Scott Alexander, and Larry Karaszewski.
Okay.
Stars John Cusack, Samuel Jackson, and Mary McCormick. Hour and 44 minutes. Trailer in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
In case you want to watch your Crusaders on horseback with armor.
No.
No?
No, it takes place in a hotel room, 1408.
Well, Cusack does an excellent job here in the lead role, much of which is spent in a room by himself. It merges some recognizable tropes, but it does it well, and it's got some tense moments. This is my first viewing, and Kevin has seen it before, but they both give it a thumbs up.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. Yeah. And this, I don't know if we mentioned, this is a Stephen King-based story, short story that it was
All right.
based off of.
What happens?
Mike Enslin drives through the rain and arrives at the inn. The people who run the inn want to talk about the ghost in the place. He wants one of the haunted rooms, and he goes up to his room and waits for something to happen. He waits, and nothing happens. He writes books about haunted hotels and places, and he leaves this one 5 skulls. Nice place, but no sign of any ghosts or anything. Well, the next day, he goes to his book signing, and it's not a big deal for anyone, especially the 4 people who attend. He admits he's never seen a ghost, and the hotels just use him for publicity. Anna brings him his first book, which had nothing to do with ghosts. It was a standard novel, and he kind of regrets not doing more of those. Later, he has a surfing accident and nearly dies. He goes through his mail and gets a postcard about a place with room 1408.
Now, at this point, I'm already suspecting that he died, and this is some kind of afterlife thing.
It does make you wonder.
Or he's, unconscious on the beach, and the rest of this is all a hallucination.
It's not.
Why would you throw in a near-death experience that close to the beginning of the film?
Yeah.
Because, Chekhov's surfboard.
No, it wasn't that, though. But that is used later.
Yeah, it comes up.
Yeah. Well, the postcard warns him, don't stay in 1408. And then, there's a question being batted around, too. Who sent the postcard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Did
never
the
do
room
find that
the
out.
hotel itself send the postcard? Yeah. Well, when he calls the place, they insist that room 1408 is unavailable. He does research, and people have died in that room. Lots of people, lots of bad things. Well, Sam, Mike's publishers, gets lawyers involved, so Mike can stay in room 1408 of the Dolphin Hotel.
The manager wants him so bad, they're just pretending that the room doesn't exist or it's a renovation or whatever. So they actually sue to be able to get access to this room.
Yeah, there's some legal precedent where a hotel can't refuse. And, well, Sam asks Mike if he really wants to go back to New York after all that happened.
Uh-oh, history.
Yep. Well, when he goes to check in, the front desk has a special note.
I would think so after being sued.
Yeah, or threatened with it. They didn't actually have to go that far. The manager, Gerald Olin, takes care of him personally. They want to upgrade him to the presidential suite, but he's not having it. He wants 1408. He sticks to it. Olin says that no one has spent more than an hour in room 1408. Well, Mike, of course, thinks it's a scam. Olin says he doesn't want to have to clean up the mess again. There have been 4 deaths in that room since he became the manager. And there have been 56 total deaths in that room. Olin seems very sincere about Mike not staying in the room.
See, now, Mike knows about, 20 or so deaths, grisly murders and suicides. But the problem is there's been like 30-some natural deaths that weren't reported by the paper. Mm-hmm. So that number's a whole lot bigger than he was expecting when he got there.
Yeah. And actually the conversation comes up, too, where you've been cleaning the room and stuff, and they do. They clean it as a team, make sure the door stays open. They are in and out quick. And he tells the story about one of the maids that got locked in the bathroom accidentally for just a few minutes, and it was a horrible experience for her. And, well, anyway, Mike is very persistent. Olin says it's not a ghost exactly. It's just an evil effing room.
Samuel Jackson by playing the manager.
He's got to say the F-bomb. Yeah.
Well, and he does a really good job in this, too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's nice.
Usually when Samuel Jackson plays Samuel Jackson, you know what he's doing. Uh-huh. This one here, he's, I don't know, I would say
professional
acting.
Manager guy.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he was very good in it. Yeah. Well, finally, Mike gets to go up to 1408, and the room looks like a normal hotel room. Nothing special at all about it, and Mike is kind of disappointed. He narrates into his recorder how boring it all is when the radio suddenly turns on by itself. And then he starts noticing small things. He briefly thinks someone is in the room playing tricks on him. But no, he's alone. Well, the room starts getting hot, so he calls the front desk for maintenance. He uses a black light and notices just how many blood splatters there are.
They didn't clean that good.
Yeah, in the room that he can't see with the naked eye. Well, the maintenance man comes. He will only stand in the doorway. He just refuses to come into the room at all, and talks Mike through how to fix the thermostat. Just
here's the part, you do it.
Yeah, open the cover and give that mercury switch a tap, and it'll fix it, and it does. And he wastes no time in leaving when it is fixed. So leaving Mike alone again, the clock radio switches to 60, like 60 minutes, and starts counting down. Mike remembers that Olin says no one lasted more than an hour. Well, the window slams on his hand.
He didn't make it sound like it was going to be a timed challenge, though.
No, he didn't, yeah. The water from the bathroom is scalding steam, and he gets a nonsense phone call. He's had enough and is ready to check out. So he grabs his stuff, but the door won't open. He's trapped.
This is like 3 minutes into the timer.
Yeah. And he throws things out the window to try to get people's attention down on the ground, calling for help. The things that he throws out vanish before they hit the ground. But he still thinks maybe he's imagining it. Maybe Olin spiked the booze or something. Well, the TV comes on and shows a video of his wife and child. And he sees a grainy black and white ghost jump out the window. Then a 1950s ghost in color do the same thing. He has a vision of his own father in a nursing home, and he's very menacing. Well, Mike decides to go out the window and climb the ledge to the next door window and go in the next room. Well, the ledge is very narrow, but once he gets out there, it's also infinite.
It's a long ledge.
Yeah, it just goes on forever with no other windows. Well, it's a struggle, but he makes it back inside into 1408 again. And the room seems to be cut off from the world outside. Even the windows vanish. He gets a vision of his daughter being diagnosed with cancer. Well, Mike pries open the air vent, starts crawling through the ducts. All the other rooms seem to show bad parts of Mike's past. He finds a dead body in there that crawls after him, so he gets chased back to his own room again, as bad as it is. Mike argues with an imaginary version of Olin, who accuses him of taking away people's hopes and breaking their spirits. It gets really cold in the room, to the point that there's ice and snow on the furniture. Well, he manages to call Lily, his ex-wife, on the computer, and she calls the police to room 1408. And then the police are in 1408, but Mike doesn't see them. The computer takes over and invites her to the room as well. And then the room fills with water. Mike passes out, and we cut back to the surfing accident. And he wakes up in the hospital with Lily. She says he got hit on the head by his own surfboard.
Uh-oh, movie's over.
Yeah, except I suspected...
Except it's got 45 minutes to go.
I suspected at that point it was still the room playing tricks on him. He tells her about his experiences in room 1408, which was clearly just a fever dream. He's feeling way better, spends a lot of time talking to Lily in a restaurant. She says he ought to write about his experience with Katie's death, the daughter. And he notices that some of the people here look like the people from the 1408 hotel. Mike, and he recognizes the suicide people are out. Like, yeah, this is not good. Well, Mike redoes his research on the Dolphin Hotel, but it's all different now. No one died in there. He finishes his book and sends it off to Sam. He visits his father in the nursing home. He goes to the post office, and the workers there start demolishing the place, stripping off the walls, and it's room 1408 underneath.
He's been there all along.
That whole thing was a trick by the room. Well, he sees Katie, but then she dies again and turns to dust. The clock counts down to 0, and the burnout hotel room looks clean and normal again. He gets a phone call that he can relive this hour over and over again, or take advantage of the express checkout system.
That's the open window up here on the 14th floor.
Or the nooses. There's suddenly a noose in every room. Well, the phone also says his wife will be there in 5 minutes. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me, he says, and so he sets up a Molotov cocktail and sets the room on fire.
You know, the room with no doors.
Yeah. Well, Lily arrives outside in the real world, but the hotel is on fire, and Mike burns to death. At Mike's funeral, Lily and Sam are there. Olin shows up and talks to them. He says Mike did a great thing, but they send Olin away. Inside the box that he was offering is Mike's tape recorder, and there are some things on there that disturb Olin. Olin then gets a vision of Mike in the back seat, so maybe it's not all over. Or maybe Mike is finally the ghost that he was trying to find all these years.
There are no ghosts, he insists.
Yeah.
Well, there's harbingers in movies, and then there's Samuel L. Jackson.
Uh-huh.
No one makes a haunted room sound as bad as he does. Mike opens the windows and leans way out about a dozen times in this. It seemed like that would be the last thing you'd want to do in this situation, especially after hearing about how many people have jumped.
Yeah, yeah.
As far as acting goes, it's almost exclusively John Cusack in a room alone.
And he's good.
Yeah, yeah. There's almost nothing here that we haven't seen before, but it's very well done, and it gets very intense at points.
It does. Well,
Definitely did like it.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Hey, a year later, some people went to Eden Lake.
And had a nice time, a nice picnic by a beautiful, picturesque lake.
Well, for an hour or two.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
Written and directed by James Watkins. Stars Kelly Riley, Michael Fassbender, and Tara Ellis. Hour and 31 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free.
Spoiler free, a couple on a romantic getaway have the worst weekend ever, which is also a one-sentence summary.
Bad weekend.
Yeah, but it's more complicated than that and goes on longer than you expect, but it never drags. There was a distinct point where I was thinking, oh, that's about wrapping up, and there's like, oh, there's 20 minutes left. What are they going to do? They find things to do. The violence is visceral and the gore is very realistic. This was my second viewing, and I liked it just as much this time around. I thought it was quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think the whole point of this one is it's all possible and believable.
Yeah.
No demons or anything.
Yeah, it's just bad people.
Jenny dismisses her kindergarten class and joins her boyfriend Steve after school. They're going to visit a place he likes that's about to be built over in the near future. When they get to the B&B, someone snags their parking spot. When they get in, there's a whole bunch of other annoying people there. This place isn't exactly what Steve remembers, but he swears the quarry that they're going to will be stunning.
Eden Lake.
Well,
I think Eden Lake is going to be the
whole
name of the subdivision
development,
after they chop down the woods and build houses. But for now, it's very picturesque and woodsy and natural.
They arrive at the quarry, and there's a big sign up for Eden Lake homes, which are going to be built soon. The whole place has been surrounded by metal fences as the construction is ready to commence. Finally, Steve picks a spot and parks the car. And it is very scenic.
Very nice.
They find a boy in the woods drawing caterpillars. Drawing on paper, art. They get to a beach area and relax. Sure enough, a couple of troublemakers show up and start bullying the caterpillar kid. More people show up and they bring their dog.
And these are young people.
Yeah, teenagers. Steve, annoyed at having his quiet place defiled, asks them to turn the music down. They got a big old boombox. They're not cooperative.
They're very rude.
The young people get more and more obnoxious, but eventually they leave.
Or do they?
Well, later, Jenny hears something moving in the woods. They set up their tent and get ready for night to fall. Do they hear screaming, or is it just an animal noise out in the woods? Steve goes out to check, and Jenny hears growling outside the tent.
It's just Steve messing with her there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the morning, they find their food has gone bad, so they get in the car to leave. Nothing supernatural, they just didn't plan well. As they back out, their tire crunches over a bottle placed there by the teenagers the day before.
At least they assume it was down, but yeah, it was obvious sabotage.
Yeah. They change the tire and go out to a dinner. Afterward, Steve sees the hooligans' bicycles and stops at their house. He's going to tell their parents.
Yeah, give them a piece of their mind.
Well, the owner of the house comes home while Steve is inside. Steve actually ends up crawling out the window to get away. They drive on back to the lake and their campsite. They never did tell anybody. Well, Jenny notices their beach bag has gone missing, and it had the car keys in it.
Oops.
That's the least of their problems, as the car is gone too. Suddenly, they're nearly run over by their own car, with the troublesome teens inside. Well, the pair walks all day, into night, and finally come upon the evil teens in the woods.
With their car.
With their, yeah.
Yeah.
Brett seems to be their leader, and he was the one who stole their car. Steve wants his car back. There's a brief fight, and the dog gets stabbed to death.
Oh. Oops, now it's personal.
Does the dog die?
Yes. Yeah.
Steve gets his keys, but the others start to pursue on foot. Can he drive out of the woods in the dark while under pressure?
No.
No. He soon gets stuck and then crashes. Steve gets pinned in the car when he hits a tree, and he tells Jenny to run and get help, but he's not going anywhere. Well, the Utes, gotta say Utes.
Utes.
Soon catch up and break in. Jenny hides until the sun comes up and then goes back. Steve isn't in the car anymore. She follows a blood trail and sees that Brett's group has Steve tied up. Brett makes each one of the gang cut on Steve with a box knife and has Paige video it with her phone, so they're all forced to do it. You can't skip it because you were there.
Yeah, the leader wants them all involved fully. As
Jenny watches from the trees, Cooper, the youngest one, has his turn and he cuts out Steve's tongue.
Ow.
Ow.
Yeah, this is a very painful scene.
The gang soon notices that Jenny is nearby and they take after her, leaving Steve to get out of his bonds. She makes it to a construction trailer and tries to get the radio inside, but there isn't time. Steve goes back to the car for a first aid kit, but actually sets off his own car alarm, drawing the kids toward him.
Not a smart move.
Oops.
Yeah.
Jenny finds him first, and they continue on through the woods to an old cabin. He's got numerous deep cuts, and he's still bleeding. She finds an engagement ring in his pocket. He was going to propose to her. Well, the bad kids show up, and they end up hiding in the pond under the cabin, which puts Steve into shock. He suggests later that she follow the power lines down the mountain.
There you go. Like following the river, follow the power lines.
Jenny has no other choice but to leave him and go for help. She makes really good time until she steps on a metal spike that impales her foot. That's a big spike. She comes across Adam, the boy who draws caterpillars, and asks him for help. He says he can show her the way to where his mother usually picks him up in her car. Turns out he's lying. He's led her back to the bad teens who knock her out. She wakes up tied to a tree next to Steve, who is now dead. Brett pours gas all over the pair and then makes Adam light the match. They set Steve's side on fire first, and it burns the ropes, letting Jenny get loose. In retaliation, Brett burns Adam instead. Well, that didn't work out for him, did it?
No, it did not.
Jenny finds one of those trail-walking You Are Here maps and takes it. She has to hide in a dumpster full of rotting stuff when the kids show up again.
Oh, that's just foul.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's nasty.
And when she gets out, she is a real mess.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they couldn't smell her a mile away.
Uh-huh.
But she finds a piece of glass and makes a knife out of it. Cooper, the youngest one, walks up behind her and she stabs him in the neck.
Yeah, it's one of those reactive twirl and stab things, and I think she's kind of horrified what she did. You know, it was more of a instinct reaction, but
I think more because of his age than that she did it.
Yeah, just a kid. Yeah, but she gets him good.
It gets dark and the gang finds Cooper's body. When one of the kids wants to stop and go home, Brett beats him to death. So, yeah, you're not getting out of this one.
No.
Jenny crawls under the metal fence and makes it to the road, where she soon flags down a car. The driver calls his brother Ricky, who is one of the gang.
Oh, no.
She ends up stealing his car and driving off. So, yeah, not getting away that easy.
Nope.
Paige, another of the kids, jumps out in front of the car. Jenny doesn't even slow down.
No.
She's had enough of this.
Yeah, runs
Kill them all. She
runs
don't
her
care.
right over. Yeah.
She didn't get too far, though, before a near collision drives her off the road. She hears loud music and staggers right into a party and collapses.
She's saved. Yay.
She wakes up surrounded by civilized-looking people, but it quickly turns out that this is Brett's family's house.
And all the
all the places she could have gone.
These are the parents of the kids. Yeah.
John, Brett's father, comes in and refuses to call the police. She locks herself in the bathroom, and it's not looking good.
Yeah, they're figuring it out, what happened, and piecing it together, and what she did. Yeah.
She finds a straight razor and waits inside. Brett comes home and tells the adults something that they believe. We don't hear what he tells them. "We look after our own around here," says John and his friends, who drag away Jenny and kill her. Brett then deletes all the videos off Paige's phone and smiles at himself in the mirror. He got away with it.
Sometimes the dragon wins.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Jenny had a really, really, really bad day.
Yeah, it's just a really bad weekend for these people.
You know, we got zombies and vampires and Godzillas and, cosmic monsters, and this one's got kids on bicycles.
The worst monsters of all.
No, they're realistic, and the whole situation is completely plausible. It probably happens fairly often, but probably not to this extreme. This one is violent, brutal, and very realistic. None of the good guys survive, and the worst of the bad guys survives to do it all over again. I don't believe that there's an Eden Lake 2, but it's possible.
Yes.
Could be.
Uh-huh.
All right, now to our indie movie of the week, Ganymede from 2024. Directed by Colby Holt and Sam Probst. Written by Colby Holt. Stars Jordan Dow, Pablo Castelblanco, Joe Crest, and Robin Lively. Hour and 37 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Yeah, this one just came out last week, so it's about as new as they get.
Brand spanking new.
It was pretty low-key on the horror, without even a hint of it until quite a ways into the movie. It's very well made, does have some horror and disturbing elements, and we'd both give it a thumbs up.
Yes, we would. Yeah.
All right. Again, this is brand new. Nobody's seen it, I'm sure, at this point, so we're not going to spoil it to death.
We'll just give you a little taste here.
Give us a taste.
You can check out the full thing on the website if you want. Well, we open in 1989. A man walks out to the end of the dock carrying cinder blocks, ready to jump in. In the present day, a jogger stops and jumps into a pond with a fountain. He sees something scary under the water, and credits roll.
Is it going to be a zombie movie?
Yeah, it made us wonder there.
Well, the poster kind of implies it.
Yeah. In the morning, the young jogger wakes up next to the fountain. He goes home and has breakfast with his parents. He's Lee Fletcher, and his parents make him stop and pray before breakfast. Sarah Beth helps around the house, and the mother, Floy, is clearly jealous of the younger woman.
Is Floy short for something? I've never heard of anybody named Floy.
I don't know. Yeah. Both parents seem very strict. Lee is on the wrestling team at school. Well, Kyle, an obviously gay kid at school, tells Bree, a girlfriend, that he thinks Lee has sad eyes. She says Lee won't party with them, and he's got nothing in his life but wrestling and church. He hears that Lee has signed up for the community trash cleaning group, which his dad makes him do, so he signs up for that too as a way to meet Lee. Well, Lee and Kyle talk as they pick up trash and see what they have in common. They're getting along fine till a couple of homophobes from school drive up and start calling Kyle names. Lee punches Justin in the mouth. Later, Kyle apologizes for being there. Lee is confused as he jogs home. Well, when his parents hear that he spent the afternoon with Kyle, Floy gets upset. You show that boy kindness and he will twist it. Well, Kyle says tells his mother the story, and she's not so negative about it. But Lee's father is the county commissioner, so he's got some clout in the town.
He could cause trouble if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, we cut to Lee's family church, and they're a bit extreme, to say the least. Yeah, and boy, what a grim church. It's just this plain cinder block building, and very, very utilitarian. Lee daydreams about what he saw under the water in the pond. Pastor Royer goes on and on about genders and all things that are ruining today's youth. Lee hallucinates ripping the skin off his arm. And when he goes home, Lee sees something in his closet. When he looks, there's nothing there. So we're getting some hints of some weirdness going on. And Pastor Royer's a recognizable face.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of
things. Seen him in a lot of things, yeah. We should probably stop there.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
So there's monsters in the closet.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe it's not that kind of closet.
Yeah.
Depends on how you want to look at this one.
Yeah, in a closeted teen with very strict religious parents and a kind of psycho-y kind of pastor. He's kind of whacked.
Well, I've never heard the term Ganymede used like this before, but it's an important plot here. Had you heard about it?
Should we explain that? No,
Ganymede is a pretty boy who tempts men to be homosexuals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I got that? Okay.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's a way for, repressed, closeted people to say, I'm not gay. He's making me do this. It's his fault.
Yeah. A seducer.
Because he's a demonic seducer. Yeah. That kind of thing.
Well, the story is common enough. A romance between an openly gay kid and a strictly raised Christian fundamentalist. The conflict there is built right in. This one, however, portrays Lee's internal emotional conflict with real monsters. It's all metaphorical, until it isn't.
Uh-huh.
The performance and cinematography are all excellent. Everyone does a good job here. There are some characters you're not going to like, but that's intentional.
Uh-huh.
It is very low on the horror scale, unless you're a closeted gay teenager. That is probably pretty darn terrifying.
Yes.
It's more disturbing than horrific, though, especially since it's all so believable and realistic. And probably also very common.
Who knew that Ganymede was more than just one of the moons of Jupiter?
That's all I could have told. It's some
Yeah.
mythological thing too, but
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
never heard it used like this.
Yeah. I thought the basic story didn't seem like much I hadn't seen before, but the inclusion of some monsters around the edges made it interesting. And all aspects of it I thought were really good. Like you said, it's low key on horror and heavy on drama, and unfortunately realistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, if it sounds reasonably interesting to you, give it a shot. You might like it.
Yeah.
And now it's time for our big Bacho shorts.
Bacho shorts.
Starting with Mora from 2024, written and directed by Sam Evenson. Stars Tim Torrey, Jamie Taylor Ballista, and Valeska Miller. 12 minutes, 5 seconds. Watch it on YouTube. There is a link. It's not a trailer. You can watch the whole thing.
Absolutely free on YouTube.
All these shorts are absolutely free on YouTube.
Yeah.
And there's a link in the show notes for all of them. Cody works at his computer trying to get an AI to generate a specific image. One of those, I can't think of any names of them right now.
Midjourney.
Midjourney,
is
yeah.
one of them.
Yeah. When Hannah asks him why, he explains that there's an anomaly that often appears in pictures of bloody, rotten, and bleeding corpses, and the anomaly's name is Mora, a gaunt, tall woman with scars and oddly long arms. He says if he can isolate the anomaly, get just the right chat prompt, it'll make him famous. And it does, in fact, make him famous, but not in the way he intended.
Talk about modern horror.
AI art.
Yeah.
Chat prompts.
As modern as it can get. AI chat prompts and Midjourney image processing. It's fun. It's creepy. You know exactly where it's going to go once Cody explains what he's doing. And it all looks really good. They did a nice job with this.
Yeah.
And remember, if you ever doubt...
And if you've ever done anything with AI art,
You can, yeah. And if you ever doubt your reality, just start counting people's fingers and see if they have the right number.
That's how I can usually tell. All right, what's next?
Next up is Mora.
That was Mora.
No, I misread that. Erebus, which was written and directed by Joseph Collier. Stars Holly Smith, Alexander Slother, and Larissa Menon. This one's a little longer. Runtime 17 minutes, 36 seconds.
What happens?
Well, a forensic scientist is awakened in the middle of the night by the chief investigator. Something strange is going on in an apartment building where radiation has been detected. And not only that, but people are missing. Well, the scientist and the investigator, they have some kind of bad history. And they do nothing but argue until he fires her. That may not be the end of her investigation, though.
All right. It's well filmed and it looks good. The problem here is a little hard to pin down, in my opinion. It seems to be either acting, dialogue, or maybe the direction, but more likely it's a perfect storm of all three. I didn't like it.
I liked it okay, but I agree. It didn't quite come together. There's something...
The arguing and the
Isn't
bickering
quite there.
between them did
Yeah.
not feel natural. It felt like kids on doing a high school play.
Ooh, well, I didn't hate it that bad, but...
Granted, real cops are not always as calm and competent as the ones on TV as CSI, but anyone who acted like these people wouldn't get very far in the real world.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The mystery is interesting, but we really don't get a lot of that. We don't get any explanation of what's going on. We don't even see what really happens to the main character at the end. I'm assuming that this is a student film, and I hope they got a good grade, but I did not particularly enjoy it.
I'm going to be kinder to it than you. But wasn't my favorite of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Autumn Harvest, 2024. Directed by Frederick S. Hana. Written by him and Marius Lund. Stars Olivia Holbrugger, Ailey Harbo, and Helga Guren. That sounds very Scandinavian, doesn't it?
It does.
16 minutes, 37 seconds. You know where to watch it. Usual place. What happens?
Well, there's a grief-stricken sailor who walks into the sea with a rock tied around his neck.
We got a lot of that this week.
Yeah. But before he goes under, he sees a mysterious woman in a black shroud standing above the waterline. And he seems to fall in love with this woman. And he does her bidding. And the requests that she makes of him are just more and more terrible as it goes on.
All right, well, it's not completely without dialogue, but it's awfully close. There's a couple words there at the end. It's done in black and white, which adds to the dread of the dread and the dreary, hopeless setting. It's all dark. We don't really get much of an explanation, but we get most of what we need here. It's very bleak and maybe a little Lovecraftian while we're at it.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's almost silent and it's black and white, but it's very good.
Yeah, I really liked this one. I think this is probably my favorite of the week, of the 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I think my favorite of the 4 is yet to come.
But the next one was mighty good.
Death Snot.
Death Snot, yes.
2024.
That's right.
Written and directed by Charlie Schwan. Stars Noe de la Garza. 8 minutes and 40 seconds. I think it's also the shortest one this week.
Mm-hmm.
A man has a cold. It gets progressively worse, and his doctor calls and says the tests say it's just some kind of allergy. It's nothing special. He keeps blowing and blowing, and his nose gets redder and redder. Yeah, I've been there. How far will he go to drain his sinuses? Well, the vacuum cleaner hose starts to look really tempting.
It starts getting really bad. Really bad. Yeah, there's just something up there that just won't quite come out until it does.
I think we've all felt like this guy once or twice.
Uh-huh.
Maybe not the final bit, though.
Not to this degree. No, never to this degree.
Yeah, the ending here might be a little excessive, although a good sinus-clearing blow might feel like that final scene sometimes.
Uh-huh.
It's a great example of what can be done with almost no budget and only one actor. Very cool.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah. Hey, we're all out of movies.
Darn it.
I think they're making more, though. We'll have to watch some for next week.
We are going to watch some more for next week.
5 movies, 5 shorts, or some combination thereabouts.
Okay.
I think we're going to watch some Clive Barker movies.
Oh, yeah. I like Clive Barker stuff.
We're going to have a new movie and some Clive Barker movies and a whole bunch more shorts.
Yay.
Yay. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.